Mr. Dolan here. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe. For today's assignment, I thought it might be a little better and easier if I simply did a quick video on how to do some of these calculations. Just kind of trying to do like what we do in class. So first thing you're going to need here is you are going to probably need a calculator. You are going to need a periodic table. You can look one up online. There's a lot of those online. Or if you want, if you go to Google Classroom, and especially if you go to the classwork tab, I'm not sure where it is on stream, but if you go to classwork, the second thing on here is our equation sheet. And if you click on that, you can print it, and it will work out, or just click on it and you can use it as you need it. So anyway, what we're going to do here is go through a couple of the questions. So the first question you have on today's assignment is about this lady. She is a chalk artist. She makes her living by doing some pretty cool things with chalk. And she does other things too with like painting and drawing and stuff, but this is like one of her claims to fame. What we'd like to know is if we looked at this piece of art that she created, how many molecules of chalk did she use? And I know that's not something she would ever actually have to figure out or do, but it is the sort of thing that we need to do when we're talking chemical reactions and things in chemistry is, how many particles? That was such a big deal in first semester. How many particles? How many particles? So this is the sort of thing we have to do. I'm just trying to find some examples that would be a little bit different, maybe hopefully a little bit more interesting. Anyway, so to do this, what we have to remember is these are simply conversions. We're figuring out how many molecules based on some other piece of information that helps us to measure them. And the way I've been showing you to do this in class is we set up a blank proportion. So a blank proportion is simply two fractions that are equal to each other. The left-hand side of our equal sign, these top and bottom of this fraction is always going to come from the question. I said, hey, make the top side what the question wants you to find, and make the bottom side what does the question give you. And then the stuff on the right-hand side almost always comes from either the periodic table or it's you needing to know that 1 mole of something equals 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. So let's dive into the question and look at which ones we have here. So first is we want to figure out what does the question want me to find. So we just kind of read through. Valerie McKeenan is a chalk artist. She drew this picture of a holiday ornament using chalk, which is CaCO subscript 3 on a chalkboard. The piece of chalk started with a mass of 8.43 grams, and when she finished the picture, it ended with a mass of 2.12 grams. How many molecules? Now stop. That is your question. How many? That's what the question wants you to figure out. How many molecules of chalk did Valerie use in this picture? So we're trying to say, okay, how many molecules are in there? So the want here, that's always going to be our x, and I'm going to always put in parentheses next to it what units we should have when we're done. Molecules in this case. And then you look at, well, what does the question give you? Well, this one actually is a little different than what we've seen. It gives you two different numbers. Now, why two different numbers? Well, this first number is your starting mass of the chalk, and then she waited again when she was done, and it ended with a mass of 2.12. Well, why would the weight of the chalk go down? Well, the weight of the chalk goes down because the other chalk is now part of this picture. It's part of her drawing. So to figure out how much chalk is in the drawing, we simply have to figure out how much of this chalk she used. So to do that, we simply subtract. I'm going to do this up here. Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. So we got 8.43 grams minus 2.12 grams. And when I solve that on my calculator, 8.43 minus 2.12, I get 6.31 grams. That then is my given. That's actually how much chalk is in the picture. So now all we got to do is we got to figure out how are grams and molecules related to each other, right? Well, if you have grams, I want you to get burned into your brains that grams means you need the periodic table. Those numbers that are in the box on the bottom, those are molar masses. Mass meaning grams. How much does 1 mole weigh? So we got to do that for our chemical here, which in this case is chalk. And I gave you the chemical formula for chalk, CaCO3. So now all I do is I say, okay, I need to know how much does a CaCO3 weigh. I look up Ca on the periodic table, number 20 on the periodic table, and on the periodic table, right, it says it weighs 40.08 grams per mole. And then I have a C. Now that's capital C, capital O. So it's carbon, capital C, and oxygen. Be careful. There's also a cobalt, which is a totally different thing. So carbon on here is 12.01. And then I have oxygen, which is 16.00, but we have 3 of them. Got to multiply that by 3. Order of operations is very important. I'm just going to add all those together, but I have to remember to do multiplying first before I do any adding. So 16 times 3 plus 12.01 plus 40.08, and I get 100.09. Now this is grams, but that's how many grams is in 1 mole. Now, in terms of my proportion then, this is going to be the number that goes on the right side on the bottom. Why on the bottom? Well, because if I start with grams on the bottom, I need to end with grams on the bottom. So 100.09 grams. But here's where it gets a little different. This is technically how many grams are in 1 mole of chalk particles. But that's not what the question's asking for. The question's asking for molecules. So now I have to say, well, how many molecules are in 1 mole? And you just have to remember, what does the word mole mean? The word mole means 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd of any object. And in this case, the object is molecules. Okay, now I simply need to cross multiply and solve for my answer. So I'm going to do that, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. And remember, use the EE button there. Okay, that's going to really help you out. And then divide that by my 100.09. And I'm left with this number right here. So I'm going to put it down here. X equals 3.79. It's a capital E on my calculator, but we need to know that that means times 10 to the 22nd power. And that's going to be molecules. Now, double check, look back. Does that number make sense? Well, 6.31 is smaller than 100.09. And this number here, which would go on top over here, remember, that has a smaller power of 10 than 10 to the 23, which means it's also a smaller number. So that actually makes sense. That probably tells me I did my math right. So looking at that, check your answer, see if you got it. If not, go back, look at it, figure out what you got wrong. If you have any questions, remember, you're always welcome to email me. I'll be checking those emails early afternoon and trying to put together answers for people who still are struggling. Cool. Thank you. Hope you're having a good one.